Hey guys, it's Sam, and today I'm going to be talking about my all-time favorite female characters. So this is a video topic that I haven't done since 2014, which is when I first started my channel. I think because I talk about female characters a lot, I've just never made like a comprehensive video about my favorites, but I think it's time. Here it is. And I have 18 characters on this list. Now, there are plenty of characters that I really like that aren't on this list. These are the characters that I would like literally die for, that I think about often, that like I think about like, oh, I wonder how they are. Oh, they were so good. There's other characters not on this list that I really like, but these are like the top tier. I'm also not really ranking these. I have them like in a slight order, but one, female characters shouldn't be made to compete even in my own damn lists, and two, like I really can't rank them. Like I love them all for so many different reasons, so I can't do that. But we have 18 to talk about, so let's get into it. First we have Anita Blake, and this is a nostalgic pick, but one that I still just love so much. Anita Blake is a vampire hunter and zombie animator in the Anita Blake series by Laurel K. Hamilton. This is a series that I've talked about a lot on my channel, but I've never done a dedicated video to because I've given up on the series a long time ago. Although Matthew keeps trying to get me to catch up on the series and possibly do like a readathon read-along, which I'm not opposed to in the future, but I don't know when that will happen because I deeply need to get my TBR down, but I'm just saying it's possible, and if it happens, it's his fault. But Anita is not going to be necessarily everyone's cup of tea because this series has been running since the, I think, early to mid 90s, and it is a paranormal sort of, it gets kind of like paranormal romancy, but it originally was just like an urban fantasy, paranormal fantasy, and it has a lot of the like, sort of like not like other girls themes in the beginning, strong female characters, you know, like she has to go up against the men a lot, blah, blah, blah. But that did evolve over time, and I just really enjoy reading a series that is very centered around her. At one point she gets like a harem of men, which I'm like, girl, go do you. And I just love her for being like one of my original book favorites for female characters. Next we have Karou from the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy by Laini Taylor. I love Karou. I love how like artistic she is. I love how she grows throughout the series. She was always my favorite of the two main characters, Karou and Akiva. I can kind of like hit or miss on Akiva with a lot of things, but Karou, I'm just like, I love her. I want her to be happy. I want her to have like a little family and her little found family, and I just want good things for her, and she works so hard and she tries so hard. So I deeply appreciate Karou. Then we have Elisa from the Girl of Fire and Thorns trilogy by Rae Carson. This is a series I talk about a lot as being very underrated. What I love about her is she has a more quiet strength than was very common in series that were coming out around this time. She is also a curvy main character, so that is something that you still don't quite see in like YA fantasy stories. Like definitely curvy protagonists are much more prevalent in YA contemporary than they used to be, but I still have yet to see a character like this in a fantasy story besides Nina Zenik. But oh look, we have two examples. So I really love her. I love how she learns. I love how she goes from being like a very sheltered, naive person to really knowing about her people. She's like a really good leader. There's just a lot about her, and I adore her. And I also adore her romance. I'm not saying that all of these are characters where I adore the romance, but like a lot of them are, and she's one of them. Then we have Sabriel from the Abhorsen series by Garth Nix. Sabriel and Lyriel are two of the characters within the first trilogy, and Sabriel is the one that I picked because I've reread Sabriel like 3 different times, and I have yet to read Lyriel and Abhorsen, which are the second and third book in the series that have Lyriel as the main character, since I read them in high school. So Sabriel was just the character that I attached to the most. She is a necromancer in this world. Abhorsens are characters that can go into like the actual river of death and bind dead things and send them back from whence they came. And I just adore her. I think I'm so deeply attached to her also because she's one of the first like necromancer death magic characters that I fell in love with, and you guys know that that's one of my tropes that I adore to this day. Then we have Katsa from the Graceling series by Kristen Cashore. Katsa is, again, one of my most favorite. She's one of the first characters that I saw that definitely was more on like the asexual, demisexual spectrum. Even though it wasn't explicitly said, a lot of people do identify Katsa as somewhere on the ace spectrum, so I loved that. And she's just such like a strong character, but not necessarily in the like strong female character way where it's like, yes, she is good at like fighting and stuff, but like she's just like this like quiet strength that I love. And she does pop up throughout the series, and I always loved seeing her. Then we have Evelyn Hugo from The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Evelyn Hugo is a famous starlet in this contemporary kind of historical story, and she has had these 7 husbands, and she is having basically her memoir written by this reporter and going over her life. But she is a bisexual icon. I love her. This is one of the only stories that I've read where bisexuality is said on the page and where the character is like, this is what I am, this is what I identify as, I loved both men and women, and fuck you if you try to erase that. So I love her for that. She's also a biracial woman. She is very Slytherin, she is very cunning and conniving, and she is one of those characters that is just not necessarily one that everyone's going to like and that is easy to stomach necessarily, because she does do a lot of bad things, a lot of selfish things, but I just adore her and found her so real and raw, and I love her. Then we have Kelsea from the Queen of the Tearling trilogy by Erica Johansson. She is a character who is really struggling to know what's going on because she was kept in the dark for a while. She is a queen that is going to claim her queendom after being kept in solitude for a while to protect her, and her nemesis is also another queen, another like strong female who has some like dark magic, and she kind of has to contend with all of that, and she makes mistakes along the way. She is young and can be naive at sometimes, and she can just be kind of like spiteful, and I love her. She's one of the first characters I remember reading about since I got on BookTube. It was one of the first books that I read on BookTube where people like were actively disliking her, and that just made me dig my heels in more and be like, no, I love her now because you guys are talking shit about her. Because I find her to be very realistic, and the things she goes through to be very realistic for being this ruler who wasn't quite taught to rule and wasn't quite taught what the problems were within her society, but that's what makes her great too, is because she comes with this like new perspective. So people are like, that's not how we do things, and she's like, it is now, and I just love her for that. Then we have Satta from 12 Kings in Shirakai by Bradley Baleo. This is a grimdark desert fantasy story, and Satta is on a mission, a revenge quest, because these 12 kings in Shirakai, this major city that she is a part of, there are these kings that have these magical powers, and they have this whole like guard of like assassins around them, and they are incredibly hard to kill, obviously, and she's like, no, I'm gonna kill all of you. And I just love a good vengeance quest, honestly. I know some of you are gonna say this later if I don't mention it now, but Mia from Nevernight is not on here just because I didn't deeply attach to her the same way that I did Satta, but if I did this video in the future when I've read the last 2 books in the series, she might be on here. But I do love a good vengeance plot, and I do just love Satta. And then again, she also has this like angsty relationship with her male best friend, that they're both in love with each other, and that's just really great. And she's just somebody who's like, I am going to burn the world down because you fucked with me. And I'm like, I appreciate you. Another character who is an assassin is Nona Gray from the Book of the Ancestor series by Mark Lawrence. Nona is a magical assassin nun. She is trained to be an assassin by these nuns, and they have magic, and you have to train on certain like types of magic and things like that, and she is just a character that I loved, that I always rooted for. This is a very dark, grimdark fantasy world, and I was constantly rooting for her relationship. She has some very interesting, complex relationships with her friends, with friends that are turning into lovers, things like that, and I just really adore her. She is smart, she is constantly underestimated, she is always kind of turning things on their heads as far as like prophecies and things about this world and finding things out, and she's just incredibly clever and smart and good at what she does, and still struggles though, because she's a character that you don't always know if things are going to work out in her favor. And so it's just that much more rewarding when it does. Then we have an OG that might have been on the original list, and that is Lia from The Remnant Chronicles by Mary E. Pearson. I really started to love her in The Heart of Betrayal. A lot of people seem to not like her, especially in the first book, because they're like, oh, she's boy crazy, she's like whatever, which I think is false. I always think that she is much more worried about what's going on in the world, but that is definitely much more obvious in this book and the last book. She is an incredibly good leader that also has love interests. Heaven forbid a girl want a little bit of distraction while tensions are high and things, but I always found that she was incredibly empathetic, and that's what I loved the most about her character. She was always trying to learn about other people, not necessarily make assumptions about them, really always was teaming up with people that were thought of as like lesser, and I just love her for that. I found her to be like an incredibly good leader and just really came into her own throughout the series. Then we have Kestrel from the Winter's Trilogy by Marie Wachowski. Kestrel is another one of those like typical Slytherin type characters. She's so cunning, she's so smart, her story is so angsty, and she is sort of trying to do her best, but also like the world makes it so that her best has to be sometimes like manipulative and lying and stuff, and like she's not safe to do things in like the best way. And I just love her for her brain. Like the whole setup at the very beginning of the first book is that she's not a good fighter. She's not good with a sword, even though she lives in a world in which like that is very valued. She's always a step ahead with her brain, and I deeply love characters like that, especially her. Then we have Essun from the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. She is another character that is just so real and so raw and has so many different identities. At one point you almost are like, okay, so she's this mom, but she's more than just being a mother. She is a character who really embodies that mothers can have more identity than just being a mother. And just you get to see so many parts of her life and what she goes through and the strength that she has and just like the tragedy of so many things, and that she does do a lot of things that people call her out for, like you push people away, you only think about yourself, and she like takes that to heart and learns and grows from that and has just a wonderful arc that is so beautiful, and I love her so much. Then we have Agnieszka from Uprooted. She is a character that, again, I just love. I love how like chaotic she is. She is just chaotic. She is the embodiment of nature magic, which is going up against the very logical type of magic that is prevalent within this world. And she's just like this whirlwind that like throws all the other characters off, and her love of her best friend is such an important value for her, and she just doesn't let other people tell her what to do, and that can make her very rash and impulsive, but I just tend to love those kinds of female characters, and I adore her, and she's a character that I still think about. I'm like, man, I hope she's good. I hope she's doing well. I hope that she is happy. Then we have Meher from Empire of Sand by Tasha Suri. She is a character that, again, embodies a lot of identities because she is looking for her place in the world. She has ancestry from two different types of people, two different like kind of like tribes or cultures, and she's really trying to find her place in that. She really holds on to the traditions of her mother's values and how spiritual they are, and her connection to magic is so good, and her loyalty is great, and her, again, she's one that has a really good relationship that is just so beautiful within this, and I just loved her strength. But that, again, it's a strength in the spiritual magical realm and not in like the fact that she can like fight with a sword or anything. And I just love her and how like the effect that she has on this world as well. Then we have Inej from the Six of Crows duology by Leigh Bardugo. Inej was instantly my favorite character. I also love Nina, but Nina is not a character that I think about because I'm like, she's fine. She's doing good, and we're obviously seeing her in other books in the series. Inej is a character that I instantly loved. I loved characters that are the like thief assassins, you know, like slip into the shadows, quiet strength, all of that. And her dynamic with Kaz is one that I found really interesting as well. But I just love her and who she grows to be and her found family and the trust that she is able to build because she is so against that at the beginning, and recovering from trauma and all these things that she represents, and the fact that I'm just like, I hope she's happy. I hope she's doing good. Hopefully we're getting to ones that you guys knew would be on this list, but now we also have Alina from the Shadow and Bone trilogy by Leigh Bardugo. Alina has always been one of my longest standing favorite female characters. I love her, I defend her, I just adore everything about her. I love her journey. There are things that I don't love about the end of her journey, but ultimately I do really love her journey of embracing her power and of fighting back and just like realizing that she is like strong and important and just doing her best. And again, finding this like found family and just knowing what she wants. Like she knew what she wanted the whole series, and I really love that about her, and just everything about her, man. Her whole personality from the get-go. I had so many scenes within this series that I just love to see with her and her power and her strength and everything, and I adore her. I adore her. So yes, I am very much looking forward to seeing her and Inej on screen. Then we have Iseult from the Witchland series by Susan Dennard. Iseult was another instant favorite as soon as I read this series. I love and adore her, and the next book is like her book because all of the books focus on multiple characters, but they really do follow like one character story majorly. So the next book is really following her, and I just adore her. She is somebody that I think I almost see a lot of myself in because she does have this almost like borderline like imposter syndrome where she's just like, I am not good at this, but then she also finds out that her magic is a little different than she originally thought. She is really battling a lot of darkness too with her story and with her like origin, and with everything going on, she has a really strong best friendship with the other female main character in the story, and she's just this, like, again, quiet strength because her culture has, like, taught them to be, like, very quiet because they're all, like, thread witches, and that's an important part of their magic and all of that. I love all the dynamics that she has with every character. Like, every time she talks to any character, I'm like, ooh, I love that dynamic. Like, I just adore her, root for her. She is my favorite character in the series by far, and I just love watching her grow, and I love this series, obviously. And lastly, we have Vasya from the Winter Night trilogy by Catherine Arden. I have a review coming up for this book, so you can hear more of my gushy thoughts about her if you want to very soon. But Vasya's entire character arc is amazing throughout this whole story. She just really comes into her own. She is the balance of this world. She knows a lot about the magical side of things because this is an adult fantasy series that incorporates Slavic folklore and mythology, which is a little bit darker than, like, a lot of the stories that you might be familiar with a lot of other fantasy stories. So I just really adore her and her power and her magic and everything about her, and her whole arc was just perfection for me. So while some of the other characters, like Alina, for example, there's a few things about, like, the end of her story that I didn't love, there's nothing about that with Vasya, which I think is why she made the very, very top of the list, because her arc and her personality and, like, everything about her is perfection. She is strong, but she's also vulnerable. She goes through a lot of loss. She's able to hold on to her humanity and empathy while also acknowledging that she does like having power in certain areas, and I just love her as a character completely. Love her so much. So those are my all-time favorite female characters within books. I am also willing to do this for other media, like video games and TV and movies and stuff, because I do have characters that fall in there as well for favorite female characters, and I would do that on my other channel. So if you guys are interested in that, let me know down below, and I will do that if that is something that you guys would like to see. So comment down below, let me know your favorite female characters. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye.